welcome. I'm Max Rivers, the marriage mediator. And I'm interested in sharing with you some of what I've been figuring out using NVC specifically in primary intimate relationships. And after 15 years, I figured a whole bunch of stuff out that takes NVC, actually takes Robert Gonzalez's version of NVC through somebody named Stephen Michael Tumelo, who runs an organization called Heart to Heart. It's a very embodied form of NVC. And then I've taken that and I'm focusing on using that specifically with couples.
Max, can I ask you a favor? Could you repeat those names again? Because I'm not that.
Robert Gonzalez was one of Marshall's students.
Who's the other fellow, the other two that you mentioned?
And Stephen Michael Tumelo,
Okay,
who runs an organization called Heart to Heart.
thank you.
And it's a program for teaching NVC in prisons, which I did with him for a few years. And that's kind of the embodied NVC form of NVC, which we'll be talking about some. So I've written a book about this, which is coming out in September. I have a draft of it here. I'm going to be going over chapter 2, which is a really interesting idea I've come up upon about how needs play out in romantic relationships. And the first thing that I want to share with you is that after about 5 or 6 years of working with couples, I noticed that when I told them about NVC, everything you think and everything you do is the result of trying to get a beautiful universal human need met, and all judgments are tragic expressions of unmet needs, they'd go, oh yeah, that makes sense, and wow, that really clears up a lot of things. And about 20 to 40% of them could put it into action. And I'd have to really work over and over again. I only do 6 sessions with couples, 6 hour-and-a-half sessions, but I'd have to spend a lot of time trying to kind of drill that in so they would take it home and practice it. And even so, somewhere around 40 to 60% just couldn't get it. I mean, they got it mentally, but they couldn't do it. And that intrigued me. And so I did some research, and I started to realize that what Marshall really did was he taught us an unconscious process. Without ever mentioning the unconscious, right? Feelings are not something your mind creates, and needs are not something your mind creates, but they are things that we have access to. I can ask you what it is you're needing, and you can figure out what it is that you're needing. How do you do that? Well, we have more than one mind. We have 2 minds. We have a conscious mind and an unconscious mind. And what I started to recognize is this work is being done in people's unconscious. And so I studied NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. Neuro means mind, linguistic means language, and programming means human beings are programmable. When my sisters were little, they used to get dolls, and then one year there was a new technology, and you got a doll that if you turned it over, it made a sound. And then a few years later, they came out with another technology that you could pull a string, and it would say, and then a few years later, there was a button under the string, and you could record a message. And then when you pulled the string, it would say whatever it was that you recorded. I used to have a lot of fun with that with my sisters, because I was the big brother, and you know how we are. So humans are just like that. We have a button, and we're programmable. And it turns out, so I studied NLP for a year, and then Ericksonian hypnosis. Milton Erickson was kind of the model for NLP. He was a hypnotist. And I came to understand that basically there are 2 ways to program a human being. One is with repetition. Just keep repeating something over and over again. The unconscious mind stores that information. Let me prove that to you. I'll bet, I think everybody in this room is old enough, maybe not, to finish this sentence. Winston tastes good like?
A cigarette should.
That company has been out of business for 40 years. That's how powerful repetition is. And the other really interesting thing about the way you can program human beings is, think about that sentence. Winston tastes good like a cigarette should. How good should a cigarette taste?
Who knows?
It doesn't make any sense at all.
Right.
So, just like the doll, basically human beings, anything you push the button and say over and over again, human beings will take into their unconscious. And the second way that you program humans is with very strong feelings. So if you have like a traumatic experience, that affects you not just then, but in an ongoing way. And if you really want to trance a program to stick, have it be really strong feelings and repeat it over and over again. And what I'm describing there are couples fighting. Think about it. I had a couple who came in and were married for 23 years. They had a fight on their wedding night. And they've had that fight every single wedding anniversary for 23 years. Now, if I were a hypnotist and I wanted to make something really stick, that's the way I would do it. Just like every year, just as it's about to fade out, you just, bam, you put it back in again. So they came to me right before their 24th anniversary, and they said, you know what? We are not having this fight again. We're going to get divorced if you can't help us not have this fight.
Wow.
The name of my book is, Are You Tired of Having the Same Old Argument? They were tired of having the same old argument. And we settled it. The argument was not what they thought it was about, right? She accidentally said a judgment to him. He took it at face value. He said a judgment back. They listened to the content of the judgments, started a fight. Every anniversary it comes back up. So I realized in order to be able to help couples, not only did I need to teach their conscious mind what NVC, the principles of NVC, I had to teach their unconscious mind how to be re-entrained to be open and vulnerable and willing to share with each other. Now, just to give you a quick little 5-second demonstration about how powerful the unconscious impacts NVC. Observation seems like the simplest part of the OFNR, right? Observation, feeling, needs, requests. I mean, all you got to do is just say what it is you see, right? Let me show you how powerfully the unconscious impacts just the very first step of NVC. So what I'd like is, anyone who wants to, I'd like you to come over here and stand facing me. Anyone who wants to experience this.
I'll do it.
It'll take 5 seconds. Exactly 5 seconds.
I'll do it.
Can I get a few more people? Because I'd like it to...
Let's see if anybody's gonna start.
Shoot, sorry.
All right. So here's the instruction. In a moment, I'm going to ask you to turn around and look. No, in a moment, not that. I'm going to ask you to turn around and look at whatever's in your vision, field of vision. And I want you to find 3 things that are brown. Okay? And whatever you think is brown is brown. If you think wood is brown, it's fine. Brown is brown. And I want you to record enough information in those 5 seconds about those 3 things so that when you turn back around and you're looking at me and not looking at it, you can describe your 3 things so well that since I'm looking in the direction you were looking, I'll be able to tell which of the things you were. Got it? 5 seconds, 3 things, as much detail as you can. Brown. Turn. Okay, 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, 1005. Turn around, look at me. Don't look back. Okay, now I'd like a volunteer to describe one of the things that you saw that was red. What's the problem? You just spent 5 seconds doing nothing but looking. Do any of you think there's nothing red back there?
The
The
tablecloth.
carpet.
Hmm?
The carpet.
Look.
Okay.
It's because we know what's back, we're going off what we know
Yes.
is back there.
So what's happening, right?
We're conditioned.
In what way?
We're pre-programmed to only look for something, to look only for something.
Right, but you did see all the other things. So,
Right, we were focusing
We
on
did see
brown.
them, we didn't pay attention.
okay, and but you still saw them. Why don't you remember the things that you actually saw?
We're looking for something.
Right. Okay, have a seat. So essentially what that demonstrates is our brains, powerful, beautiful things that they are not capable of reporting everything that we experience. So we use 3 processes to cut down the amount of information that we're going to store. This one is called deletion. Okay? When you're given an assignment, you only collect data that satisfies that assignment. So what do you think would happen if you gave yourself the assignment to only store the things that your partner does wrong?
You cannot see anything else then.
That's right, you would only,
You
and
only see what he, yeah.
yeah. So when you have a fight with your partner and you keep telling him all the stuff he does wrong, he never cleans up in the kitchen. And if we were able to look in your mind's database, we would find that you were telling the absolute truth. That there are no examples of him doing his dishes. That every single stored instance is him not doing his dishes. Now, maybe he actually does his dishes 99% of the time. Right? There's plenty of red over there. It doesn't matter how many times there really is. You're only storing in your unconscious the information of the chore that you give yourself. And a lot of couples give themselves that task. Right? As soon as they start fighting with each other. I had a woman who came in with a 300-page notebook. A couple came in. The woman had a 300-page notebook of all of her husband's misdeeds. Yeah. It was actually only 150 pages because the front half was chronological and the back half was by type of mistake that he had made. They were organized like that.
Over how many years?
Like 8 years.
Why were they together then?
Well, it sounds pretty extreme, right?
Yeah.
But I have to tell you that pretty much every couple who comes in has that journal. They just didn't have the guts to actually write it down.
Like it's all in their head.
Yeah. It's basically giving themselves the assignment for Brown. They just keep, anytime Brown happens, you store it. That's that journal. She just happened to be interested in writing it all out. So this is how the unconscious works. If you ask people, so you're talking to their conscious mind when you're talking to them. If you ask people if they're doing that, they would say no. But as soon as their partner does that thing again, it goes into the journal. So I said to her, you're going to have to give me that. It's not admissible in the court of love. And I'm going to burn it. And I burn the journals of everyone. Of course, it's hard to do when it's in people's mind. And so our job as healers is to help people open up their minds, to give them back the assignment to store all the loving, beautiful things that their partner is doing, basically because according to Marshall, what everybody is doing is just trying to meet their beautiful life-affirming needs. And so everything that they're doing deserves to be appreciated and reported. Any questions about the impact of the unconscious on the process of doing NVC? Yeah.
This is a much bigger question, but what do you do if you do this through your entire life? You're so attached to negative emotions that you keep on deleting all the good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, fortunately, remember you have a button on the back that lets us reprogram.
A reprogram.
Yes. So with a little repetition and some strong positive feelings, you can be reprogrammed to be back in love with your partner. Forgiveness is essentially that program, right? It's that trance. Forgiveness is that trance. You figure out, this isn't working for me, having this information, so I need to delete, and start paying attention.
Delete all. Absolutely. Yeah.
Hmm?
start paying attention to the positive
Start paying
things.
attention to positive things. Okay. So that was what set me on the path of being interested in the unconscious. Now couples would come in, and to varying degrees, they would show me how they ask each other to get their needs met without knowing that's what they were doing, because most of them don't know NVC. And then they would start judging each other, which was, according to Marshall, is them asking to get their needs met, but just in bad form. And I started to wonder, why do people sometimes just ask for what they want? And why do they communicate some of their needs as vicious, vicious, vicious judgments? And so I paid attention to my relationship with my wife, and I paid attention to my clients. And when a person would judge their partner, I would listen empathetically, and I would identify what it was that they were feeling, and I would help them identify what it was they were needing. And I would say to them, is this the first time you've ever felt this? That was the question that really unwrapped this whole thing. Is this the first time you've ever felt this way? And they would say, no, he does this all the time. And I went, no, I don't mean in this relationship. I mean in previous relationships. You look back and they go, yeah? Which one? Everyone. How far back does it go? And I learned to ask the question, what about your parents? And they go, oh yeah, especially with my parents. So it turns out that when people do intense, repetitive judgments as a way of communicating their need, what they're actually doing is they're talking about a need which has been going unmet all their whole life. And so this is what it turns out I have figured out happens. When you're born with the full complement of universal human needs. And the expectation that as soon as any one of them pops up, it's going to be instantly met, or you're going to scream your head off until somebody meets it, right? That's what babies do. And Marshall says we're hardwired to enjoy meeting those needs, and so your parents do the best job that they can to consistently meet your needs. But without fail, some subset of your needs consistently go unmet for lots of different reasons. Here are a few of the reasons I've figured out. One of them is certain religions define some of our needs as sinful, right? Our need for sexuality, our need for connection, physical connection. Some needs consistently go unmet because of your gender. I was raised in the 50s. Boys weren't supposed to have feelings. Girls weren't supposed to be smart. Some of it has to do with how areas of weakness in you. You know, maybe you have an artistic temperament and you're not strong with math, and so your needs for gratification in school are consistently not getting met from your teachers and your parents. Some actually don't get met because of your strengths. You know, if you have a sister that's colicky and you're really good at taking care of yourself, your need for attention is going to, their attention is going to go over there. A lot of your needs don't get met because your parents didn't. Their needs didn't get met. And they have the same problem, and they have no idea how to meet your forbidden needs because they don't even know their needs.
Right.
Because they were forbidden to them. So this is what I call generational forbidden needs. Isn't that a fun idea? We pass our unmet needs from parents to kids. Anyway, for whatever the reason, let's say, just for mathematical ease, that half, it's usually way less than that, it's usually a pretty small pile, but to make the math easy, let's say that half of your needs consistently went unmet as you were growing up. So as a little kid, they don't just say to you, we're not going to do that, so don't ask. You ask and you ask and you ask and you ask, and you consistently get the answer no, no, no. And by the time you're about 3 or 4, you go, you know what? I can't have this. And you decide one of two things. This is a bad need, and I shouldn't have it. Like that's that sinful thing. Or maybe your parents didn't like touching and they just didn't like it, and they believed it was a bad thing, and they communicated that to you. Or the second reason people come up with is, there's something wrong with me. No one would want to meet this need in me. Whichever one of those you do, what you do is you have to stop asking for these needs. It's just too painful to have a need and have it consistently turned down. It's hard. And so what you do is you put a little candy coating of despair around that need. In my book, they look like little marbles, a little dripping with despair. And you just go, okay. So your conscious mind says, all right, the heck with it. I don't need those needs. I'm going to live with this half. So like in my case, I was actually a very sensitive little boy. I loved to cry, I loved to hold my mom and be held by her. And went to kindergarten, got the crap beat out of me, and realized, boys, and was told in no uncertain terms, boys don't get those needs met. And my father was trying to teach me that all along. Boys don't get those needs met. And I just went, all right, the heck with it, who needs them? Right? They're painful. Every time you ask for them, you get a disappointment. So, and I'm going to be smart. And it happened, computers came along at just the right time, and being a nerd was a good way to make a living, for Christ's sake. And so my conscious mind was like, great, I'll just do this, the heck with those. And your conscious mind is fine with that deal. Your conscious mind says, all right, that's the hand we've been dealt. Now remember, you have two minds. Your unconscious mind is not on board with this deal. Your unconscious mind, where feelings and needs live, enjoys you getting your needs met because it's the one that gets the satisfaction. And so what happens when you get to be 18, 19, 20, 25, whatever point you decide to form a relationship, your conscious mind goes, all right, let's make a list of things we need. My wife had a 3-page list. Fortunately, I had about 2/3 of the stuff on there. Hairy chest was on there. I didn't satisfy that one, but she was okay with that. And so you go around looking for that person, right? With that list, she knows she's going to be Jewish and college educated, and whatever your list is, your conscious mind. So let's say this doesn't have to be true for me, but let's say I have a forbidden need for touch, and I'm not going to be doing touch because it's a forbidden need, and I'm a computer programmer, so I'm not going to get touched much, but that's okay with me. And I'm looking for this college-educated Jewish girl, and I'm going to hook up with. And I go to a party, and there she is, and she's got this little dumpy brunette right next to her who's her best friend. And I go up to talk to them, and I don't want to seem like I'm a jerk, so I chat with her friend also, show what a nice guy I am. And her friend is kind of noisy in the party, and every time her friend wants to talk to me, she touches me on the arm to get my attention. And at one point when we're talking, she brushes the hair out of my eyes. I find myself really drawn to her. You know why?
Touch. Forbidden.
That's right. She's satisfying my forbidden need for touch. And more importantly, she's so good at touch that even though we're strangers, she satisfies that need without my having to ask. And that's very important because it's forbidden to ask. Because remember, the unconscious, if you do something repetitively, it remembers that that's the truth. What happened every time I asked to be touched?
You didn't get that?
The answer was no.
Right.
So there's absolutely no point in my asking to be touched, even though it turns out I really love it. But it's forbidden, or at least it's forbidden to ask. It turns out it's not forbidden to receive it. And so instead of going out with the blonde, I go out with the other one. And in fact, turns out, and this is the really amazing part of the psyche, she has a forbidden need for being listened to. In her family, girls, what they said didn't matter. And she's really hungering to have somebody who is good at listening, especially empathetic listening. It turns out I'm good at that. And so I meet her forbidden need just by the way I listen to her. And she meets my forbidden need by touching me all over while I'm listening to her. And man, we can't stand to be away from each other. Because these incredibly powerful needs that we have been doing without for our whole lives are getting flooded, constantly met, without our having to ask. And that is how our forbidden needs pick our partner.
Wow.
And if you think about it, like my friend Bruce, when I was growing up, when I was in high school, my best friend Bruce, only went out with Playboy bunny looking girls. He was a little dumpy, bald-headed guy with a beard. But he just worked it because that was, that was what he wanted to prove his worth, And I was away at college and I came back and he was married and she was this little skinny British thing. And I'm like, Bruce, have you seen her? She didn't look like any of the women that you dated. Well, that was his conscious list, the Playboy thing. But this woman was an artist. And that was a forbidden need of his. Bruce just really wanted to have someone value his expression. He was a poet. And she was a painter. And it was like they've been together for 40 years and they are so happy together. She's meeting his forbidden need. And it is so clear that this was his unconscious making that choice. His conscious mind wouldn't have picked her in a billion years. And he's totally in love with her. So your unconscious, your forbidden needs, pick your partner. Okay, so it's so much fun being around your forbidden need partner that eventually you invite him to move in with you. Like, it's painful to be away from him. Why would you want to be away from him? Let's spend as much time as possible touching him and listening. So we did. She moves in. Now, remember that I know nothing about this pile of forbidden needs. I haven't gone there in 30 years at this point when she moves in with me in this theoretical story. And she lives here. And she knows nothing about that. You know what that means? We are very different. And in the worldwide culture, they call that opposites attract. But now you know why opposites attract. Opposites attract because together we can satisfy the full component of universal human needs with each other, which is great while we're doing that. Because in the infatuation stage, your mind is open, your heart is open, you're curious about the other person. Curiosity is a relationship superpower, you're really interested in each other. Now we're living together, it's not so fun. Because we're living with somebody who's completely different than us. Like accountants don't marry accountants, they marry ballet dancers. And then they try to get ballet dancers to balance their checkbooks. And that ain't happening. She loves the fact that he balances checkbooks because she's always hated it. Had a relationship with a woman when we moved in together, or staying at her place, and the phone bill came. I brought it in the mail. And she was going through the things, throwing out the crap. She threw out the phone bill. I said, wait, you threw out the phone bill? She said, that's not the phone bill. A week later, the phone bill comes again. This time there's a red stripe across it. She's going through the mail. She throws that one in the trash. I said, wait, you threw out the phone bill again. She said, no, that's not the phone bill. Well, a week later, an envelope comes which is all red. And it says at the bottom, your service will be shut off in 24 hours. And she said, that's the phone bill. Now that's not I paid the phone bill before the bill came. I went online and found out what the amount was. And she waited until the third. I didn't even know that the phone company. Did any of you know the phone company does that? It's like they have like a codependent relationship with them. So that's how different we are. Like imagine how I feel. Like when she threw the phone bill out, I was like, "Are you crazy? They're gonna shut the phone off." She said, "No, not for weeks." And she was right. They weren't gonna shut it off for weeks. So you live with somebody who's really different. And what I want you to know is, and mediators, I believe, get this wrong. Mediators think conflict is real. And what you need to do is to solve the conflict. And what I believe is conflict is misunderstood difference. Conflict is misunderstood difference. And this is not a random difference. This is a difference I picked. I picked it because I needed it. There's a Seinfeld episode where he goes out to dinner with a new girl, and they go to a restaurant at night, and she orders cold cereal. And he's like the only person in the world who orders cold cereal in a restaurant for dinner. And the next morning he says to his best friend George, George, I found what I've been looking for all along. It's me, in female form. And by the end of the week, they're so bored with each other, they don't even bother breaking up. Because you know what? You don't want you. You have you. You have you in the most efficient form you could possibly find. You add another you got all the challenges of relationship, and all you're going to get is another you. You don't want that. What you're looking for is your complement. Is all of those beautiful universal human needs that your heart desires, that your spirit is waiting for. Unfortunately, it comes in a package that handles things really differently because they're mostly meeting needs you don't know how to meet. So what looks like crazy shit to you is actually them getting needs met that you don't know how to get met. You know? Is that a hint?
Yeah. So I'm confused because like I've met couples who literally like are the mirror image of one another in terms of personality, and all of those couples are completely satisfied in their relationship. They're like, we never fight, like it's amazing, like we want to do everything the same. And then whenever, like, for example, for me, with my ex, he's not affectionate, but I am, but I also need affection too, and that's like our biggest problem.
Right. So you're in a forbidden need relationship, and that's a minority of people who happen to pick somebody to be like them, because there's a bunch of reasons for that. They're so conflict avoidant that they value that over the passion of getting their forbidden needs met, and so their conscious minds have formed such a strong agreement with each other that their unconscious is just weeping every night for the needs that are never going to get satisfied. But at least their need for peace and serenity is getting met.
Okay.
Yeah. So now we have this couple who are living in tension, right? She's throwing out the phone bill. He's reorganizing the dishwasher every time she puts dishes away. That's actually, statistically, I can make people laugh at that because statistically, more couples have that happen than any other thing I've seen in 15 years.
Okay.
The organized person not only wants it to be in the dishwasher, they want it to be efficiently in the dishwasher. It has to face the right direction for the spray. And the other part is like, well, it's in the dishwasher. What difference does it make? And they fight over this. You would be amazed at how many dishwasher mediations I've had. So anyway, we're starting to have these like differences, you know. She brings home a cat painting that he hates. That actually happened in my relationship. I thought she was kidding. I'm not going to hang that up in our house. A big fight. So you start having more and more fights. And as a result, you stop meeting each other's forbidden needs. She stops touching me. I stop listening to her. Now, our forbidden needs have created conflict. Because they brought in somebody who's so different than me. And we're fighting, and now I'm not getting my forbidden needs met, but it's even worse than it was before, because back when I was a teenager, I forgot about them. You know, I had made a pact with my conscious mind, and I was just going straight ahead. I was making all this money, being a computer programmer, everything was great. Now I remember how nice it is to be touched, and she's not touching me anymore. We're fighting over the dishwasher and stuff. And I'm like bereft, because I can feel the unsatisfied need. But so now I'm in a really tough situation, an existentially tough situation. This is what causes 50% of the marriages to end in divorce, I believe. This thing right here. This is it. Because I can't get my need met. I'm not getting my need met, and I can't ask. It's forbidden. But without asking, I'm not getting it met. But I can't ask because it's forbidden. And my psyche is like exploding out of my head. So after 4 or 5 weeks, depending upon how passionate you are, some night she comes to bed and I just go, sweetie, my wife when she's angry at me, she calls me, sweetie, there's something I want to talk to you about. She says, yeah, what? And now, there I am, I'm right at that place. I've got a need, I need to communicate it, but I'm not loud. So this is what I do. I say to her, you know, when we first met, you seem like a really warm person, but you're actually kind of mean and cold-spirited, aren't you?
Whoa.
And if you interviewed me right then, and I do, because, you know, they repeat those things right in the first session. They just, you interview the guy right then, you say, how'd you do? And they all say the same thing. I did great. I told her what it was I was needing. I even showed her how powerful, strongly I feel about it. I did a good job. I'm being a good husband. And if you interview her at that time, you say, what just happened? She goes, fuck if I know, he just attacked me for no reason. So what are you going to do about that? I'm going to attack him back. And she does. You know what she says? Who would want to touch you anyway? The psyche is that precision. It's like a guided missile. And he has now recreated his family of origin of not being touched with a person who is hand-picked because she loves touching. And if he had asked her to touch him, she would have gone, oh baby, you're right, I have been missing you. And they would have had mad passionate love. Instead, they are now having a World War III version of their fight that they used to have in their family of origin. And that's why when they come in and I say to them, is this the first time you've ever felt this way? They say no. This happens in every one of my relationships. And did it happen in your family of origin? Oh yeah, of course it happened. You get it? This is what Marshall's Universal Human Needs and Judgments, this is the spotlight. It shines on this impossible situation that therapy has been going after for 25 years and has not made a dent in. The divorce rate is a little higher now than it was when therapy started doing couples work. Because these people do not have a therapeutic problem. They have a conflict issue. And they have an issue about needs. This is a communication issue.
Wow.
You get it?
Yeah.
So, we got to find out what your forbidden needs are, right?
Yeah.
It's very important for you to know what your forbidden needs are. Whether you're in a relationship now or not, you need to know what your forbidden needs are. Because going into a relationship, not knowing what your needs are, is pretty much a formula for creating that same old argument. It's going to happen again. We are just waiting for the infatuation to wear off, for you guys to stop automatically meeting each other's needs, and bam, you're back in the same old argument. And it will not go away. 23 years. My parents actually have a record. 68 years. It'd be continued going, but he dropped dead.
68 years of fighting about the same thing?
It's having the same old arguments over and over again.
Yeah, it's
And
about
you know,
64
when you move away from them, you know, I live in Philly and they live in Florida, and what happens is the fight gets more and more efficient. You know, there are a lot of steps in between, you know. There's no butter on the table. Well, get up and get butter. You're standing up, why don't you get it? All those steps are there's no real payoff to them. So it goes, there's no butter on the table, you're an asshole. When you're visiting, you're going like, wait, where were the other 13 steps? How did you get there? And he says, we're not wasting time, we're too old for that. Right for the payoff. And if you, like some couples do, you go to therapy or whatever, and you go, we gotta stop having this argument. So with an act of will, you just stop having that argument, and you know what? It pops up someplace else in your life looking different. But it's the same need, different strategy. So the toilet seat fight, and the toilet paper fight?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh my God.
I'm a marriage media, I know all this stuff. The toothpaste top fight?
Yes.
And the cup in the sink fight? Those are all the same fight.
I don't know.
It's
What
respect.
does it mean?
What?
Wow, the toilet's
Could you-
sucking
Is if the seat's left up or down?
Yeah,
Because man used to lift it up.
yeah.
Then the
Well,
woman,
they
she
think
went,
there's a
the
fight
guy was in the middle of the
somewhere.
night, the seat was up, and she fell in the toilet.
Exactly. Yeah.
So the respect.
Respect.
I don't remember the other ones.
Yeah,
It's not
caring,
respect.
caring about the impact it has on your partner.
Yeah, I never had it.
Yeah.
Oh, probably where you push it.
Right.
It's where you push it. to make
That's
it-
one way to avoid the fight, don't brush your teeth.
We
So-
got two different
Well, you
tubes.
used to have
Oh, yeah, we got two different tubes.
So, stopping a fight is not resolving it. It will pop up someplace else. It'll come back if you're not careful, or it'll just pop up and look different. But they're all the same fight. Resolution, my definition of resolution, is when both parties' needs get met. That's how you resolve a fight. Then it goes away. But this is tough to do with forbidden needs. For a couple of reasons. One is, if you ask somebody what their forbidden need is, they can't tell you. And here's how unconscious it is. What I do in the first session is I identify both parties' forbidden needs. And at the beginning of the second session, they always do the same thing. Could you tell us what those were again?
They don't remember.
The conscious mind has a hard time recording unconscious information. And the unconscious mind ain't talking. It talks in a whole different language. Okay, so we need to know what our forbidden needs are. We've already said that the way I found forbidden needs is by identifying, this is the reason people judge. Marshall actually told us about this. All judgments are tragic expressions of unmet needs. Tragic expression is the vague thing he used. What does that mean? It means coded expressions of getting that need met. Because it's forbidden to say it out loud. It's forbidden to just ask. So instead of asking, you ask for, are you ready for this? The opposite. The opposite. Have you ever heard anyone say, I never want to see you again?
Yeah.
And you know that the opposite is actually true? That's a forbidden need. The way that you decode forbidden needs is they are the opposite of the content of your judgments. So if I say to my partner they're cold, what's my need? Warmth. If I say that they're sloppy, what's my need?
Neatness.
Yes. If I say they're undependable, what am I needing?
Liability.
Yeah. Now there's some of them that, the unconscious is incredibly artful. It's like where all art comes from. So those are easy ones. But there are others that are tougher to decode, but it's all basically the same principle. You just have to be artful about it. So like, if you call your partner stupid, what are you needing? It's not for them to be smart, because they...
Understanding.
Respect.
Maybe emotional intelligence.
Okay, so it could be those things or something else. Yeah, you want it to be understandable. You want to be met. You want to have conversations that come to a logical conclusion, whatever it is. So this isn't black and white, but this is the skill set. You basically, the way you find out what your partner's forbidden needs are, it's the opposite of their judgments of you. That's why Marshall said there's no information about you in a judgment.
Yes.
There's- Marshall said there's no information about the person being judged in a judgment. I always thought that was like, I think he's overstating that. But if you look at this,
Oh, you're talking about yourself then.
you're talking about yourself. You not only that, you're talking about your need. You're talking about your forbidden need in the only way you're allowed to. Isn't that a wow?
I did not get this.
Okay, Marshall said there's no information about the person being judged in a judgment. If I say you're a slob, you're not actually a slob. You may be less interested in cleanliness than I am, but you're getting your need for cleanliness met, right? This is about me. So all I'm saying is my need for cleanliness isn't getting met. That's got nothing to do with you. This is the way that I explain this to my classes. I actually had a couple who came in and they were about to get divorced over this cleanliness issue. And here's how it played out for them. This guy wanted his wife, after every shower, to take a toothbrush and clean all the grout lines in the shower. You know what the grout lines are? The white lines in between tiles? After every shower. And slob that she was, and some of you may be disgusted by this, she was only willing to do that once a week. And he considered that unacceptable. Okay? So it turns out that every need is actually a spectrum. And he's over here, right? It's like way over there. And she's like over here. But she's to the right of him. And so she's not as clean as he is. Now, like over here is like hoarders, right? It's people that sit on piles of cockroaches and things. Okay, so they're over there. And most of us are somewhere in here, right? So the way I picture it is, remember Chinese checkers? They gave you a little marble, and they had this little kind of groove in the middle, and you'd push your marble along, and there were these little dimples, and your marble would like hit one of those dimples, and it would just fall right in there. It's like, oh, that felt good. This feels right. So that's where your cleanliness is. Like you're on the cleanliness spectrum, you take your little marble as you're trying out, you live in a dorm for a while and you go, no, it needs to be cleaner than that. And you live with some really anal person, you go, no, it needs to be a little less clean than that. That's too much. And then, or you live with your mother, and then it drops in that little dimple and you go, oh, that feels right. And we make the mistake of, instead of saying that feels right, we say, that's the right amount of cleanliness. And so everybody to this side of me is anal, and everybody to that side of me is a slob, right? So my wife moves her little marble in, and her marble lands like right here, just a little to the left of me, a little more toward cleanliness. Not much, but a little. And if I say to her, you're really anal, aren't you? My wife's very, very self-centered. She knows her stuff, and she goes, no, I just like it cleaner than you do. And you like it a little sloppier than I do. And basically that's what a judgment is. A judgment basically says, you're to the left of me, you bastard, or you're to the right of me. I mean, that's not, like, if you let that hurt you, then you don't understand the nature of yourself. This is what you're doing. If you're living according to where your marble is, you're fine. Now you may want to negotiate with them about how you're going to do, what a lot of couples actually end up doing when we bring this up is your room you can make it be exactly where your marble is. And my room gets to be where my marble is. And now we got to negotiate the joint rooms, the common rooms. So the one with company, let's do it my way. The bedroom, we can do it your way. And couples do that. It's like they have this fight for 7-8 years. They come to me, we do the marble thing, in 7 minutes they're done. Yeah.
I'm trying to reconcile sort of two things. One is the forbidden needs, right? And that would argue that we would pick the opposite of us in a way, or something that hasn't been fulfilled, right? But then there's this other sort of, let's call it theory, it's not really a theory, it plays out I think in real life pretty often, which is that we look for familiar And so often, right, you hear, oh, she married a man that's just like her father.
Yeah, but remember, her father didn't meet certain needs of hers. So that actually is why the forbidden need thing happens. Plus, remember that you have two lists. Your conscious mind has a list of who you're looking for that's like you. So we do want people to have similar values to us, right? You don't want to marry a Trump person if you're a Hillary person. So we do pick people. Our conscious mind does make certain decisions. You don't go to a Trump rally to find somebody, you go to a Hillary rally. Your conscious mind takes you there. But once you're there, it's your unconscious mind who's causing you to fall in love with, of all the Hillary people, you fall in love with the one who actually is just like your dad. Both, who actually is, he's actually kind of the opposite of your dad. This is the other piece about this. What I believe is the people we pick have a homeopathic amount of your parents' stuff. So like here's an example. I met a woman, a couple came in, and this was her third husband. And she said that he's a drunk. That's a judgment, so I know that's a forbidden need of hers. And I said, so I'm hearing that your parents were drunks. She said, yes, how did you know that? I said, that's a trade secret, yeah. So I said, and I'm guessing both of your other husbands were drunks. Yes. So I didn't meet the other two husbands, but I met this one, and he wasn't a drunk. He was a professor, kind of uptight, from the South, liked to have a drink after work, kind of loosened him up, at which point he was actually emotionally available for her. So he had the homeopathic amount that he had that was like her parents, was he liked to drink. But it was only homeopathic. He never got drunk. And her thing was, from the time she was 6, she had to take care of her parents because they were drunk all the time. And she could never get her needs met. So her forbidden need said, if her partner drinks, she's not going to get her needs met. And so her job is to change him so that he doesn't drink. So every time he takes a drink, she yells at him. And he refuses to have any kind of social connection with her. She says, see, I don't get my needs met whenever he drinks. Actually, if she didn't yell at him, she would totally get her needs met because he only had a homeopathic amount of what her parents said. He wasn't a drunk, he was a drinker. And she needed that. You see, your psyche wants you to heal. This is not all just about love. This is about healing. Your psyche and her psyche want you to heal. They bring this person into your life so that you and this person can get triggered so that you bring your forbidden needs back up into the present so that you can live through the terror of the despair and then start asking to get your needs met. Getting those needs met by asking for them is the most satisfying thing in the world. When you say, you know what, I really miss being touched. You know, I grew up in a family that didn't touch me. I love how you touch me. I know that you're going to think I'm too needy, or whatever it was your parents said to you that was wrong about touching. And she would go, no. I mean, I understand why you think that, but remember, it's me. Let's touch. And it turns out, remember, forbidden needs get caused by a need consistently going unmet when you're little. The way to heal it is you have to consistently meet it. And consistency is the key. Don't have a fight in between realizing that you're doing the forbidden need dance, because it'll stimulate the forbidden need thing again. But it also turns out that 3 to 5 instances of meeting a forbidden need with conscious awareness starts taking this charge off. It may always be a little bit harder or a little bit special, a little harder to ask, a little amazing feeling special, because you have a history of not getting it met for so many years, and it's like a little extra delicious when you do get it met. And now, as I have explain to you how you can ask for it and get it met anytime you want, just by asking. And you know the answer's gonna be yes, because you picked somebody who's an expert at that. And this is the thing that's so frustrating about the divorce rate. These people are divorcing the person they handpicked to satisfy their need and heal their childhood wound. And on average, first marriages end in 7.5 years. Second marriages end in 3.5 years. And third marriages end in 1.5 years. You know why that is?
Because they're still picking the same type of person.
That's right, and they get it faster and faster.
But I've always thought that they're, when they get divorced, the same thing's going to happen, the same patterns are gonna happen.
That's right.
7 years ago, whatever.
Yeah, and they'll pick somebody who seems really different. By the time they get to me, they always say that sentence, she seemed really different, but she's exactly like my ex-wife. How did that happen? I said, you did it. You picked them. And you picked them because you needed them. And the funny thing is that what they come in doing is, they come in trying to change the other person into being more like them. And the other person has, I call that plan A. Plan A is, they can actually hire me to gang up on their partner so that the two of us can get them to change, right? And the funny thing is, if they both succeeded, they would just switch places. I mean, the whole thing is so, it's so obvious. Okay, so let's use this information. If you are in a relationship now, on a sheet of paper, write down the judgments that your partner has about you. Write down 1 or 2. Consistent ones that are kind of sting. And write down 1 or 2 judgments that you have of your partner. Okay, got 1 or 2? Does anybody want to, well, here's what I want you to do. Translate your judgment into what it is that you're actually the need you're trying to get met, what your forbidden need is. Think about your family of origin along with your current relationship or your last relationship. Because remember, it's going to go all the way back there. So if you're having trouble figuring out what it might be, remember, actually you don't even have to remember, your parents are still probably doing the same stuff if they're alive. And try writing a sentence about how you would ask for that thing in NVC.
So you're focusing on what you're asking for from your partner.
Right now. We're going to do the other one too. Yeah. It works for both. But I have you here, so I'll work with you. If anybody's having a challenge.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk about the challenges. Who's having a tough time? You want to share your judgment, and we'll see if the group can figure out what the need might be. Okay.
Focuses on the computer all the time.
Okay. He focuses on the computer all the time.
Always on the computer.
Yes. It's the bane of our existence, and there's lots of articles written in the New York Times and all other places about that, and they totally miss the point because the content of the judgment is just a tragic expression of the unmet need. So what do you think her need is from her husband? Yes.
Emotional presence.
Attention.
Yeah. Attention, emotional presence. So write a sentence where you would ask for that. And one of the ways you know you got the right sentence is it's like the last thing in the world you want to say because it's forbidden, right? So there's going to be some resistance to speaking it. Anybody
So
else?
it's the same if he was interested in other things. I mean, it comes out in many different ways, right?
Yes,
It's all
right.
the same.
So, right, remember I said that if you don't, that stopping the fight will only cause it to pop up someplace else. So your desire for attention and emotional connection is going to show up in all the many ways that his lack of attention is going to, and I'm guessing that in your family of origin, it was hard for you to get bang, bang.
So what is reorganizing the dishwasher?
That's your judgment of him is that he reorganizes the dishwasher.
Yeah, I don't put dishes in the dishwasher anymore. Why waste my time? They're all gonna get moved around.
Oh, so you let him fill it?
Yeah, why not?
I have a question.
Can anybody answer the question, why not?
I was just gonna say, could there be like multiple,
Needs, yes,
needs that are,
yes.
not,
Yeah, they tend actually to be so strong that they crowd the other needs out, but there definitely are cases where there are multiple ones. But my answer to your question of, well, why not, is what you have to understand is these arguments, conflict in a marriage is the potential for healing and deep, deep intimacy. I am not just talking about like fun, sexy stuff. I am talking about the kind of healing that you do for each other that creates a bond that you can't have with anyone else. You know, somebody who doesn't give a shit about the dishwasher will not get you as turned on as this guy will. So the reason that you want to resolve these things is they are packets of energy. Were you at the games that I did the other night? These are called withholds. These are huge withholds where you're just taking energy of yours and just packing it away in basically a, well, fuck him, let him do it. When it was actually an opportunity for you to say to him, honey, I noticed that the way the dishwasher is stacked is really important to you. And he'd say, yeah, it is. And he'll start to explain it and you go, well, it's not that important to me, but you're really important to me. And I'm wondering if you would show me how you like it done. And I will attempt to do it that way. And whenever you see a dish where it belongs in a dishwasher, I want you to know that that wasn't where I was going to put it. And I chose to put it there because you want it there.
That's awesome.
It is.
That man will never leave you. I swear to God. That is so, this stuff is so deep down.
Yeah.
And that is so friggin' easy to do.
Yep.
So what need is that for creating the dish?
Respect, he said. Initially, he said respect.
Yeah, it could be efficiency. He likes things to be really efficient.
But it's his thing.
Yeah, and order. There's actually a need for order. There are some people who, if my wife is one of them, if they sit in a room and there's stuff like out of place, the wrong color, you know, like a red next to a pink, she says, you know, red and pink clash, don't they? And I go, in my mind, two colors can't clash. I need a third in order to clash. But for her, it's like, oh, God, let's leave this party. It's just like that. So I don't have that need, but she does. And man, if you identify your partner's forbidden needs and you voluntarily and consistently meet them, you have created a custom satisfaction that they have never been able to get before with anybody else. What I say to my couples is, this is not Home Depot. What you're creating is a custom design. It's like a little insane asylum with just your craziness and their craziness interacting perfectly. And if you do this right, if you were to pluck one of you out and put in Prince Charming, it wouldn't work. They would miss you.
Okay, so when you said to write a sentence in NVC, I'm thinking, okay, observation, feeling, need, and request. But then what you said to Andrea wasn't quite like that.
Well, Marshall wasn't really clear about this, I don't think, but first of all, in my system, the first request you make is of yourself. Heart that desires connection. What is it that you want from me? Marshall jumped over that step. And when you're working with couples, going right to request for action will get you caught up in the forbidden need thing again.
That's because if I write this out as I did,
Yeah.
and I know what the answer would be, it won't get me anywhere. So that's why I'm saying I'm missing.
I think
Something
what I'm
there.
hearing is she did not get the assignment that was given.
Yeah.
I think we were told to write something.
Well,
in
I,
chat.
yeah, I don't do OFNR. That's not the only way to do,
Right.
you know what those letters are? Observation, feeling, need.
And that's what I'm doing, I thought
Yeah.
that's what you told us to do.
Judgment.
Okay, so I'm sorry,
I
I'm
mean, I
not a
took the
fundamentalist
judgment.
NVC person. What I mean by writing a nonviolent statement is what I said to her. It's a loving, connective statement about your desire to meet their needs and your delight in meeting them.
Oh, no wonder this would do nothing, okay.
Yeah. So
But
essentially,
we're,
because,
but we're supposed to be writing it about what
Is this
our
in your-
needs
But you did
right now.
express an observation, I noticed.
yes,
Because you said, I noticed
Yes,
that, you know,
yeah.
so you have observed.
yes, I'm
But
fine
it's
with doing
not-
whatever pieces you want,
Okay,
but
so
not,
does
but
it
don't stick to
need
that
to-
strict, that formula. And see, the request was, his judgment was the request. We're responding to a request. So it was a badly formed request, it's a judgment. But a judgment is a request. Marshall said so. All judgments are tragic expressions of unmet needs. It's a request to get an unmet need met. So they say this horrible form, and you say back, baby, I would love to do that for you.
All right.
Show me
Oh, so
exactly
you
how
don't
you
lead
like
it
it.
with the defensive.
Hmm?
The kind of gut reaction is more defensive, right?
Yes.
All
Yeah,
right,
the fight was about the form.
He's trying to control me. I don't want to be controlled.
Yeah. And remember, he's saying the opposite of what he wants. If you respond to the opposite, you're now having a fight in the hall of mirrors. Do you get that? If he says the opposite of what he means, and you fight him about what he said, he thinks you're crazy. Because
That's not what the fight is about.
he thought he said the thing forward, he said it backwards, you responded to the backwards, and that makes you look like you don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Yeah.
Can you give us an example?
Well, we're having them
I'm
here.
still
Okay,
confused.
so
All right.
what's the judgment?
All right, so I did my judgment on him. Is
Okay,
that why
yeah.
I'm confused? Because it should have been his judgment on me?
No, that's fine. She
That's
did
fine.
the other one, so but I asked for your judgments because I want to teach you your forbidden needs
Okay,
first.
right,
Okay.
all right, so my judgment is you're always late.
Okay, that's great. First of all, the word always and never,
Yep.
despair, remember I said that the forbidden need has a candy coating of despair? Despair is fear plus forever, okay?
Mm-hmm.
That's where the always and never comes from. What you're, despair, remember, forbidden needs have a candy coating of despair. Despair is fear plus, or sadness plus forever. It's sadness plus forever. So when this person says always or never, what you know is they're touching a forbidden need. Because what happens is when you go to pick up a forbidden need, the first thing you touch is the despair. And it goes up your arm and right into your heart, and you go, my God, I never get this need met. And they're right. They have never gotten it met. They're not talking about you, though. They're talking about their own personal history. They never got it met. So if you hear always and never, forbidden need.
It's what?
It's a forbidden need.
And what's in a forbidden need of dependability?
No, that's just the despair part. And every forbidden need feels like you can never have this. So when you're having a fight, as soon as one or the other of you says always or never,
Right.
stop the fight. Because you're having a forbidden need battle, and which means you're talking about the opposite of what you think you're talking about, because forbidden needs are said the opposite of what they mean. And also, number two, this is a very tender area, right? This is a lifelong wound. Do not go throwing salt in a lifelong wound of your partner. And number three, this is an opportunity for intense intimacy and healing.
Right.
Do not throw this opportunity away. Now, if you do, it's going to come up again because forbidden needs don't go away. But why wait? Why unweave the fabric of your relationship with the anger and things that you say that you can't take back when right here, right now, is the moment to begin the healing of your relationship, of each other.
So if I say you're always late, that's pointing to my despair, because I said the word always.
Yes.
Lateness then turns into the opposite, which is early.
Dependability.
It turns into.
Yeah.
No,
She's
I
got
just got divorced from someone who said I was always late.
Yeah.
So my unmet need, I wrote promptness, my unmet need is
See,
promptness.
you're being a little too literal. I like hers better because it's more about the feeling of it, right?
So what did you say?
Dependability,
Dependability.
Consistency, dependability.
sense of care, knowing
Well, I
that
guess
person will do what they say.
Yeah.
Consideration, yeah.
Feel it out. Feel which ones
Consideration.
would feel terrific for you to get met. And imagine him saying, I know how important timeliness is to you, and the whole time that I wasn't able to get here on time, I was feeling so badly for you. So I know how important this is to you, and I've really made a commitment inside of myself to be sure that you don't ever have to feel that way again. And
I would love it if you said that.
of course you would.
Does
That's
he-
the forbidden need.
Does he have
And
any?
all you have to do, now how is he supposed to know that
Yeah, how's it- right.
if you keep telling him he's always late?
Late.
He's gonna be defending himself. What are you talking about late? It's like,
Yeah.
I'm 1 minute late. And I told you that I was gonna be here, that I was gonna be late. And now you're having a fight about the reverse of what it is you mean to be talking about. And it's a rip snorter of a fight. And if you have three possibilities. You win this fight, in which case you win nothing. You lose this fight, in which case you've now added another loss into the forbidden need. Or you could stop having it and say to your partner, like Marshall says, if you talk to somebody and they don't understand you, it's not their responsibility to figure it out. It's your responsibility to say it better. Remember in his book, he's sitting next to a Jew hater, and he says something to the guy, and the guy says something really anti-Semitic back, and and Marshall says, "Oh, you know what? I must not have communicated clearly. Can I try that again?" That's what you do. You take responsibility for it, and you say to him, "Oh, you know what? I don't care whether you're late or not. What I mean is, I have this deep desire for dependability and consistency. And I know how good you are at that, because I'm guessing he is. Except now you're doing Brown with him, and you've been storing all of the times that he's late.
Right.
And all the times that he's been on time is no longer in your database. And he is feeling such despair, because he like 7 times in a row, he's been early or on time. One time he missed. You started a big fight over that. He's like, and you know what he says? And I hear this a billion times in my office. I can't win.
Yeah,
Yes.
he's been saying that, yeah.
That's how I
Yeah.
He's right. Of course he says that. Because he's doing blue and you're storing brown.
You should do a TED Talk.
Yeah, you should do a TED Talk.
I am going to do a TED Talk, but thank you.
Do you have coaches
You're
for
like
that? I
Dr.
know someone that
Love.
coaches people on TED Talk.
I want to find out about that person.
So what
This
would,
stuff is kick-ass, isn't it?
Yeah.
It just all ties together. This is using needs in this beautiful, and you know what? One of the things that one of the couple will say, it's got to be him. I don't have this problem with anybody else. Really, I don't. And I say, you know what? We don't try to get our forbidden needs met from anybody but our intimate partners. So it's back on you.
So then I should be saying to him,
Yeah.
when I feel like he's late, instead of saying you're late, even if he is, tell him that he's always on time? No, tell him that I love his consistency? I'm still confused.
Well, first of all, were you at the games that I did?
No.
Okay. First of all, every time he's late or within whatever your span of being late is, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, appreciate the hell out of him. And say to him, I really appreciate your rushing home from work to be here on time, because dependability is incredibly important to me, and I feel really loved when you do that. So what I'm suggesting is that the time that you train him about your forbidden needs is not the one time out of 7 that he misses it, but the 7 times that he gets it right.
Thank you.
Train him.
That's the click, click.
Yeah.
Then you, proceed.
Oh, I think Steve had his hand up first. You
Okay.
No, that's fine. Well, we just got a puppy, and it sounds like it's almost the same model.
Exactly.
Constant reinforce. I didn't have any idea how many treats you can give a puppy because you're trying to wire their brain.
Yeah.
And yeah, if they do something wrong, you just turn your back and ignore them
Right.
because they want affection and they want a treat.
That's right.
So anything else, I don't respond to.
And a treat in a relationship is an appreciation.
Yeah, exactly. And so I've given this puppy hundreds of treats, and it's amazing. The transformation is a miracle.
Wait till you start doing it with your wife.
Everybody, take a puppy training class, and
Right? I should just hire a puppy trainer to give this talk. Okay, you.
Okay, I'm still stuck a little bit on what I asked about earlier. So I'm thinking about my one of my previous relationships, and so let's say the forbidden need, right? For me, is stability because I didn't have it as a child.
Okay?
And so what I understood is that somehow this person displayed stability, and I picked them,
Yes,
right?
yes.
And then over a period of time, because of who knows what, all the stuff that came up,
Yeah.
they started withholding stability.
Yeah, because the very first time they did anything you judged as unstable, you were on them like white on rice with
Okay.
judgments. And he's like, well, the hell with it. If I've been this stable all this time, I do this one thing and this is what I'm gonna get, what's the point of being
I
stable?
did this, but this person is actually not stable. They're unstable.
Well,
And
but that may be Brown.
no, he himself understands that about himself, and this is like something that he works on actively. So I guess what it is it's like there's a subset of needs that perhaps you pick, and then, so like what if there was one of the forbidden needs that person really cannot meet, absolutely cannot meet? I could see how you just can't overcome that because they can never meet you somewhere in the middle. You see what I
Well,
mean?
no, what I would say about that is, this is a perfect opportunity for you to practice asking for what it is that you need and not judging. Because he wants to learn to be more stable. You need to learn to ask for stability. Anytime you communicate it as a judgment, you wipe out all the good work with a puppy that you hit them in the nose, they just forget everything that you taught them. And you have to go back to
You can't
training.
yell at a puppy.
And, and were you at the games that I taught last night? So,
Those are great games.
what?
Those are great games.
They're great games. There were a lot of lessons in those games. So, you don't click the clicker and give him a cookie when he's totally stable. If he does anything that meets any part of your need for stability, you click the clicker. You say, when you came home 3 nights out of 7 for dinner, those were my 3 favorite nights of the week.
It's funny, when you put it in dog training terms,
Yes.
it really resonates with a lot of people, I think.
Unfortunately, I think women really like it better than men.
No, I'm actually really resistant to it. I'm like, I don't want to train the dogs. Like, I've always had this resistance. If I have to train you, I do not want to do it.
Yes,
And it's so funny because that's exactly what it takes.
that's exactly what it
Yeah.
takes. And you're not actually just training him, you're training yourself. See, the reason you
Yeah.
don't want to do it is because when you touch in on this need, that despair starts to go up your arm and into your heart, and you're like, ew, ew. But that ooh is not about him. That ooh is about, I have to live through the despair that I'm never going to get this met unless I have to train somebody and ask and listen to the language of despair. You know, when couples do this stuff, as they start to work the forbidden need, the person who's working the forbidden need will start to talk the language of despair. Always, never, this is disgusting, I shouldn't have to do this, I'm sad, this is never gonna end, stuff like that. And I go, listen, And I take out a little chair and I put it here. I said, this is the despair chair. Put the despair on here. Who's left on the couch? Just somebody who wants stability. Ask for it. Why is this any different than a hamburger? Ask for it. You have every right to have it. Your parents were wrong in not giving it to you. Make it happen. We are, couples always come into me and they go, the first thing they say is, we need more safety. I don't believe safety is a need. There is a physical safety need. But two people who love each other sitting on opposite ends of the couch always talk about safety in the first session, and they never do in any other session after this.
What does it mean?
It's a judgment. It's just a judgment. I can't get my needs met. It's dangerous here. What I say to them is, two adults sitting on a couch in my beautiful living room who love each other, who care about each other, and who are intelligent, open-minded, open-hearted people can solve a toilet seat problem. They really can, without any danger, with no loss of limb. I know, it makes them laugh. It's like, you know who it feels dangerous to? The wounded 3-year-old. And I said, I have a suggestion for you. Don't take relationship advice from wounded 3-year-olds. You end up with a sandbox fight. He hit me first. He's my ball. He took my ball. Don't pay me $200 an hour to watch you have a sandbox fight. It's a waste of time and energy and money. What I tell them is this. When my lover before my current wife, when we used to have sex, there were 4 people in bed. Her and me and her mother and my mother. You know, in our heads. Symbolically. Okay, this one's for everybody. So we went to therapy and we worked on this for a couple of years. And we finally got it down to just 2 people, her mother and my mother. And that's what therapy will get you. Don't listen to the 3-year-old. Here's what I say to my 3-year-old. My 3-year-old starts to scream. In my book, the picture, I had this great graphic artist for the book. And I said, I need a picture of a monster in a room. And in the next picture, and all he has is a big red button. And as soon as any of these needs get set off, he just hits the big red button and they go into red alert, you know, on Star Trek. Like that. And this monster is just like going crazy. And then the next picture, there's an adult hand reaching down, and the box is actually like a jack-in-the-box, and it opens it up, and there's a little boy being taken out of a monster costume and lifted up. That's the monster. It's your wounded 3-year-old. And so what I do is when my I don't call him a jackal, I call it an isolator. Because if you follow his advice, you end up alone. I think it's a better description in terms of couples. So when my isolator hits the red alert, I go, oh, thanks for reminding me that there's an opportunity to get my forbidden need met here. I'm not going to accept your strategy, however. I'll take it from here. I'm a grown-up. But thanks for the reminder. He's not an enemy. He's very sensitive to your making sure you get these beautiful needs met that you've done without your whole life. Don't try to kill him off, but don't follow his advice. It's just let him alert you that there's a need. He's not going to be able to tell you the name of it. He'll tell you the opposite. But we know how to deal with that now. Reverse it. Be a grown-up. Ask for it. Get it met. Have a fun, sexy relationship. That's my talk.
That was great.
Yeah, great. Thank you.